Welcome back, everyone. Another day, another interview, another player that's actually going to be taking part of the RMR. Look at us. We're flying over this one now. It's not Group A anymore, as you already know. Group A is starting. Well, it probably has already started at the moment that you're watching this video. So we're focusing on Group B a little bit more, and of course, talking about Group B, we actually have the captain of one of the probably biggest favorites going into Group B. Of course, I'm talking about none other than kyxsan from Heroic, and a fellow Balkan for me. So that's going to be an exciting conversation. First of all, kyxsan, thank you for taking the time. You just told me that you are catching your flight tomorrow, which seems to be a reoccurring theme with a lot of my guests before the RMR. But yeah, how have you been recently? How's life been for kyxsan? Maybe outside of Counter Strike, or it's just been Counter Strike.
Yeah, first of all, hello to everyone watching, and thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I mean, recently it's been like a bit of a busy schedule, a lot of practice. Also, we had some LANs like Elisa and Thunderpick
Mm-hmm.
like a few weeks ago. So it's been like busy, but we are used to it.
Yeah, you are used to it. You've been on the grind for a couple years now. For people that are unfamiliar, I guess you've been on Heroic so far in 2024. Before that, you were on Apeks for the entirety of 2023, and before that, you were part of the Balkan scene. You were part of Bluejays and Arlia and a couple other Macedonian teams. So I want to actually start a conversation from the early days. I want to start a conversation because not every single time I actually am trying to think, because I've had a couple coaches, a couple analysts from the Balkan region. I've had Regali recently as well, but I haven't had too many players. I think you might be the first Balkan in-game leader that I'm actually talking to on this channel. So this is going to be an exciting one. So please do tell, how does one get hooked to Counter-Strike in Northern Macedonia, considering that you're pretty much the same age as me? So I can make a wild guess that it wasn't the most popular thing back when you were growing up, right?
Yeah, I mean, CS was always like one of the most popular games. Like even when I was going to school, I'm playing CS since I was very young. So that's how it started. But yeah, I just kept playing, and at some point it became a bit more than just playing for fun. And as you said, it was not very popular for some people. Like let's say my friends or my family, it was hard to accept or to know
Mm-hmm.
what exactly I'm doing. But after some time, it changed, and now it's completely different.
About what age did you actually start playing Counter Strike, and about what age did you actually decide that you wanted to become really good at the game?
Like when I first started, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Okay,
That
so
was
so quite
CS
young actually.
1.6. Yeah, I started playing because of my cousin. He was playing it a lot, and I just started playing with him. Then at one point he stopped, but I kept going. And to be honest, like even when I was younger, I never thought about becoming pro. I
Mm-hmm.
just played because I enjoyed it, and I actually became pro at a pretty like I don't want to say old age, but I became pro like let's say when I was 21 or something,
Mm-hmm.
which is a bit older than many people, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually never like thought about it or had any plans. I just kept going and it happened.
Okay, so that's the reason I'm asking you, and that's I think why the conversation is going to be really unique and really fun, because I've been having talks to a lot of the Scandinavian guys, right? A lot of the younger guys, and for them, it's kind of like I just had a chat with Tawson from Gamer Legion a couple days ago, and he's like, "Well, I started playing when I was about 12, and I've never actually had any other aspirations in life. I never wanted to do anything different. It was all Counter Strike from the get go, which is not quite the same when you've been." I guess when you're raised in a Balkan household, but please tell me a little bit about your childhood with balancing playing video games and normal life, the energy maybe at home, the support or lack thereof of your parents. Was it difficult to on a larger scale imagine that you're gonna have to actually have that conversation with them and explain to them, okay, you know what, I'm not going to study, I'm not going to do any ordinary job, and I'm just gonna go and play Counter Strike?
Yeah, I mean it's a long story, but I can try to explain it as
I
fast as I
mean,
can.
we've got time.
But
You're in no
yeah,
rush. We've got time. I'm gonna lay back. I have a cup of coffee, so I'm good to listen.
basically at the start when I started playing, like let's say when I was 8 9 years old, at the start they were kind of fine with me playing because they were like, okay, he's young, let him play.
Okay.
Then there was a point where let's say I finished high school or something, and then it was time to decide about my future. Let's say, should I go to university, should I work, or should I play CS? And
Yeah.
in my head, it was only CS. But my parents couldn't understand it, even though I was at that time, like when I finished high school, I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and after high school, I tried to balance CS with university. So I started going to university for like 2 years, but I was still playing CS a lot. And then, let's say, when I was around 20 years old, it was still hard for my parents to understand what exactly I'm doing. And I have so many stories when I was younger when they would take my PC, they would hide my keyboard, they would smash my keyboard. All of these things were kind of normal for me. But then when after I quit university,
Yeah.
I started going to some international LANs like ISF. That's where it
Sure.
all started for me,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And that's when my parents and everyone around me kind of understood that it's more of a serious thing and it's not only like a video game and wasting time, you know?
Yeah.
And basically, that's how I became pro, and that's how everything started for me.
You know, the reason I'm asking this is because a lot of people, when I'm talking to some guys from, let's say the Scandinavians or the UK or Germany or whatever, they wouldn't believe that this is how parents are here. It's
Yeah,
the same approach, right? They would just come and they'd be like, okay, I'm plugging off the PC, I'm turning it off. You're like, Mom, it's an online game, I can't pause it. And then they go, I
yeah,
don't give a fucking, I don't give a fuck, it's an online game. You better get your ass out of the room. And
yeah.
it's a really fun and unique experience. One thing I want to emphasize a little bit more on though is what did you actually study in university? And for you, because you said that it was only Counter-Strike, but for you, was that just a way to make everyone around you satisfied while you are chasing that dream of playing Counter-Strike?
Well, I was studying economics in high
Mm-hmm.
school and then also in university,
Mm-hmm.
and like I kind of liked it. But if I could choose between CS and the university or high school, I would always choose CS.
Okay.
So it was more like, as you said, to satisfy my parents that I'm not only playing but I'm also doing something else. So I was trying to balance it a little bit. But then, as I said, at one point, CS became a bit more serious with going to international lands and stuff like that. So I had to stop the university because, as I said, if I had to choose one of these two, it would be CS like 100%.
I think we can have a really interesting topic right now, and that is one that I think is quite probably modern now and quite relevant. If imagine a younger player, whether it be a guy or a girl, a teenager or whatever, wants to play professional Counter Strike, wants to chase that dream of not even only Counter Strike but esports. Uh, how would you say are they to deal with the fact that, for example, their parents are not as supportive? How do you? I'm not saying yours were specifically, but I think you get what I mean. Let's say they have parents that are insisting more that their children would follow up a career in, like, let's say, becoming a lawyer, becoming a doctor, all of those traditional jobs, or become an IT or whatever, scientist. How do you have that conversation? What would you say is the best approach if you're a kid in that position to try and explain to the parents what everything is on about?
Well, the way I did it is that at the start, I was trying to explain to them that this is like a real thing, that it can become my job one day, that I can earn money of this, but it didn't work. So it's really hard when people don't understand it. But like the best tip I can give is to just keep trying, and if you really like it, you will find a way. Because as I
Mm-hmm.
said, for me it was not easy at all. Like sometimes I wouldn't have PC at home. Some like they would take my PC or something, so I would go and play somewhere else. So I was always trying to find a way to play the game. And I guess if you really want it, you will find a way in the end.
I guess you did. I mean, it's worked out pretty well for you. You've played a couple majors now, so yeah. Apparently, you've been able to fight off that Balkan households mentality, I guess, in a way. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your Counter Strike career now, because when we're talking about the Balkan mentality, there's another a whole different side of it, and that's the, I guess, Counter Strike scene. Now, the North Macedonian scene is one that I haven't, and I told you that before we started recording, is one that I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk about. So if you ask someone to try and explain what is going on in North Macedonia when it comes down to Counter Strike, a lot of people wouldn't be able to say a lot, right? Some people would just say, well, I know kyxsan, I know Cacanito, I know 8kid, and that's gonna be about it. Maybe some of them are gonna think of guys like Danny as well, Styles and whatever. But explain to me what it felt like being part of that. Is there a strong domestic scene? Is there a strong core of teams, players while you were growing up that you were playing with, or is it more disjointed?
Well, I played with like many different players when I was younger, but right now I don't think there are too many like let's say good players or players who are willing to invest their time into becoming pros.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest biggest problem when it comes to Macedonian CS, that I feel like player like in order to become a pro in CS, you need to sacrifice many things. Like
Mm-hmm.
first of all, time, maybe some other things also. And I feel like most of these people are not ready to do it because they have other priorities in life, which is understandable. But then it's hard to become pro in CS. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like when I was playing in Bluejays, for example, like even before Bluejays, we had no organization, we had no salary, we were just five friends, let's say, and we were practicing almost full time, like almost every day, without earning anything. And I feel like that's what many people don't want to do.
Yeah, I think so. And by the way, just to throw in a little bit of perspective, you're saying that's when you were on Blue Jays. This is actually quite recent. A lot of people don't realize that because this is like 2021, 2022, right?
I mean, in Bluejays, Bluejays was an organization, so we had
Yeah.
some kind of
Okay, so
salary. I
you're
mean,
talking about
before that,
prior. So you were talking about
yes,
Arle,
but
for example.
yes, so
Hmm.
it's also recent. It's like, let's say, half a year before Bluejays, let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the way I guess you keep yourself motivated and you keep going? Because for a lot of people it might not really be understandable, but as you said, you barely have any organizational support, and it's the same here in Bulgaria. By the way, I think we've only had one normal organization ever well, not ever, but in the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years, and it's the same with you guys in Blue Jays. So how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you justify in front of yourself that you want to keep on playing with your countrymen and you want to keep on chasing a dream that just feels nearly impossible to, even from a financial point of view, at least from a financial point of view, justify?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to answer this, but I would just say that what motivated us is CS. Like
Hmm.
basically, when we started playing, like all the way back, even before Blue Jays, before IGL, we started in ESA Open. So when we started there, our goal was to one day make it to Advanced or Challenger. Then we also were playing these Balkan leagues like Adria League.
A1 Adria, yeah.
Yeah, and basically our goal was to become best in these things that we were playing, and that's kind of what motivated us. And about the financial part, I mean, it was rough, but at that time we were still like a bit younger than now, so it was not the end of the world if you don't
Okay.
make a lot of money, you know. So that's how it was.
Okay, and another thing I'm quite interested in, because in a lot of the other Balkan countries, you see, for example, in Serbia, if you want to be a young and aspiring talent, there's guys like Emmy, for example, that are gonna teach you the old guard of the scene, so to speak. Then you go at Romania, you have, let's say, BTN. I'm not gonna speak about Bulgaria because we don't have those guys anymore. I mean, we have Bubble, but it's not really the same energy that someone's gonna pick up the youngsters and try and teach them. I don't feel like you guys had your Emmy or BTN though, right? It kind of felt like you had to self teach yourself at a lot of things. So how was that experience?
Well, I think that's the biggest problem with the Balkan scenes in general, because I feel like many youngsters who are coming up and they want to become pros, there's no one to teach them, especially because there's not many organizations, there's not many like there's not much coaching stuff, there's no one to tell them like what they need to do.
Hmm.
So basically they need to do all of that themselves, and that's how it was in Blue Jays for us. Like everything we did was ourselves basically, like when it comes to CS, when it comes to even like scheduling games, we were doing it ourselves. Like we were managers, we were coaches, we were
Yeah,
players, we were everything. I mean, at one point we had a coach, Kronos, but
yeah.
he was not here all the time with us. Like before him, we had no one. So it was all on us to just play and find a way to how to play and how to do things.
And how do you stay focused in the in-game part of it, by the way? Because you're doing manager work, you're being the coach. You've always been an in-game leader, right?
Yeah,
So I would assume a lot of that burden actually falls on your shoulders because a lot of the other guys are gonna be like, kyxsan is gonna take care of things. Was it like
it
that?
was me most of the time, but then at some point we changed a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
there were not many things to do. Like the only thing was to, let's say, schedule games in ESTA, which takes like 5-10 minutes. It's not a lot of time, but it's still something that in a normal world we shouldn't do. Like it should be someone else doing it for us. And yeah, that's how it was.
Okay, and talk to me a little bit about the dynamics, because obviously we had that, especially in I know most countries in the Balkans have had that. Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, you name it, Turkey, they have succeeded recently. All of us have had the same wet dream of actually having a team of our nationality, of 5 men from one country, becoming really good and reaching a really high level. So, what's your opinion on the possibility of that happening with a Macedonian team anytime soon, and why you think things didn't work out with Bluejays to that extent?
I mean, I can start with Bluejays. I
Mm-hmm.
think with Bluejays, we were playing the same lineup for a really long time, and at one point, I mean, when I got the Apeks offer, I kind of felt like this was
Just
the
to throw it in,
maximum.
by the way, sorry to cut you off. We're talking about the 8 kit, Cacanito, Styles, and Danny lineup with yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, Basically, at the moment when I got the Apeks offer, at that time we were like around top 40 HLTV. Our
Mm-hmm.
top, like our
All time
biggest
high.
rank was top
Yeah.
30. Yeah, it was top 30. We were around that when I left Blue Jays. But basically, at that time, we felt like this is. I felt like this is the maximum we can do with what we have, with the players we have, with the coach we have, with the organization we have. This is the most we can do. So it felt like it's time to move on. And also at that time, Apeks was a really good offer for me. So yeah, and in general about the Macedonian scene, it's hard to say if something good can happen soon because there are not many players, and yeah, like it's hard to say. But honestly, even though it hurts to say, I don't see it happening soon to have like a full Macedonian lineup because we had it in Blue Jays, and then when I left, they tried to obviously replace me with someone else. Then they did more roster changes, so they tried different players, and it didn't work out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I don't see it happening soon. And also because there are not many like new players coming out. It's still the same players from a few years ago.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it's the same story for the entire Balkan region, doesn't it? The fact that
Yeah,
there's almost no young blood, and I think we're kind of going back to the same conversation that it feels like the old guard isn't there to guide some of the younger players. Do you think that's the main reason that the Balkan region is probably struggling a little bit in terms of the mindset of some of the younger players as well?
yeah. I mean, it would be much easier for the players if they have someone to, as you said, to guard them or to teach them. And yeah, I don't think we have it right now here in Macedonia at least. I mean, there are some more experienced players, but they're not playing that much or they haven't played professionally for some time. So yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why CS is not that successful right now here.
Okay, okay. I think we can move on from that. Now, the good news that the good thing that we can say about the Balkan scene, there is a lot of mechanical talent at least. That's the one
Yeah.
thing that that we're good at. But let's move further to your time on Apeks. Now, you were on Blue Jays. First of all, the Apeks approach comes in. Obviously, it's a no brainer whether you want to say yes or no, right, to that organization and playing with those players. But was playing in English a bit of a barrier for you at first? How'd you feel about that?
Uh, I mean, I think my English was at that time like pretty good. I didn't have problems speaking English. The only thing is that before that, I've never played in an international roster.
Yeah.
I've played some packs and stuff like that. So sometimes I had like this problem when I start saying something, but instead of in English, I say it in Macedonian. It's like
Right.
one or two words. But then I noticed myself that I did a mistake. So, but after a few weeks, everything was fine. So I don't think like it was a big problem for me. I got used to it pretty fast.
Okay, and what do you think about your team, by the way? Because you say you're playing on an international team for the first time. It was actually a pretty stacked lineup to make your debut internationally, right? You go in. Obviously, mithR is the coach, and he was already quite experienced. You have Stiko, who is pretty much a legend of the Slovak scene, and probably a legend in terms of the entire history of CS:GO as well. You're playing with jkaem, who's been around for such a long time. You're playing with Nog, who is already proven. Jay was probably the only other guy that was fairly new to that top level as yourself, but how difficult it is to jump in a team like that and uh, having to be the IGL as well, because you're not just joining in to be a supportive player or just a rifle, just to fit into the system. You're joining in trying to actually implement and create something new with guys that are a lot more experienced than you. So did you find any struggles with that? Was that a problem?
Yeah, just to correct your mistake, Kuben was the coach when I
Oh
joined.
yeah, kuben was the coach. Yeah,
Yeah,
mithR
then
arrived after that.
yeah, after some time.
Okay.
But when I went to Apeks, like at first I was a bit what's the word, like unsure how it will go, because I've
Hmm.
never played with them. I've never talked to these players. I don't know anything about them. So I was a bit unsure and maybe even doubting myself a little bit how well I can do. But after the first, like I had a trial period of like a week maybe, I don't know. And after the first day, I could see that like we played really good as I wanted. Like we played the way I wanted. The players trusted me. Like we got along really well. Like we understood each other from the first day, and then everything felt so much easier after that. And to be honest, I felt like I didn't have too many problems or like problems to adapt to the new team. And yeah, I think I adapted to it pretty fast, to be honest.
What you think about the dynamic on the team? That's another interesting topic because you're thrown in and you're playing with two rifles in jkaem and jl that do require a little bit of space, right, in order to operate. So, from your perspective as an in-game leader, have you ever had any difficulties with that? Because you're usually because nowadays the meta is IGLs that actually get involved a lot more, right? And you are still that type of an in-game leader that's sacrificing a lot of their personal game for everyone else. Has that always been your way of leading? Has that always been your way as a captain?
I would say so. I think even when I was playing in Bluejays, I was sacrificing a lot. And when I went to Apeks, it was a bit similar because, first of all, I had to change, like, I don't remember exactly, but maybe on most of the maps, I had to change my position on city side because
Hmm.
in Bluejays, I had some decent positions. And in Apeks, in some of the maps, I became anchor, basically.
Yeah.
So, but it was a bit rough at the start to get used to it because it's like a completely new game for me. For example, I've never played Beyond Mirage before that, but now I had to do it. So after some time, I got used to it, obviously. But to accept it, it was not hard for me because I'm always ready to sacrifice for the team if I know that it will help the team.
Okay, that's really good to hear. And another thing that I wanted to throw in as like a bonus question, because obviously you go into Apeks, but Apeks at the time was already in the limbo, I guess you could say, of playing tier one tournaments every now and then. You guys made it into the Paris Major, made semi-finals there, which was a fantastic performance. Uh, how much time did you need to actually get up to speed, both tactically and individually, to the tier one level? And which one do you think was a little bit more difficult?
Uh, to be honest, when I joined Apex, basically before the Paris Major, we didn't have any tier one events.
Hmm.
At the start, we were just playing online, some CCTs and stuff like that. But I would say that after the Paris Major, uh, it became like a normal thing for us to play tier one events. Like
Hmm.
after that, we went to Cologne, then we went to Gamers 8, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it felt like we don't need a lot of time to get used to this environment because obviously we had a lot of experienced players in Deco, jkaem, also Nok, I would say. We had experienced coach
Hmm.
also. So I was the most inexperienced one, but when I was around these guys, I didn't feel the pressure or like I didn't feel like I don't have experience.
Okay, and talk to me a little bit more about the dynamic because you mentioned Cuban's name, and Cuban is actually an or a coach. I'm gonna be beating myself up for forgetting that he was actually the coach because I really like Cuban, and he's a coach that I've always really respected. So talk to me a little bit about the dynamic working with him, and then the dynamic working with mithR. How are they maybe different in a way? Is there some things that they're quite similar in? Which one, just talk to me about their main strengths individually and how the dynamic was from your perspective.
Yeah. Uh, I would say that the biggest difference between them is that Kuben is a bit more focused on the in-game stuff. So let's say when we
More
have theory,
analytical.
yes, when we have theory, he would come up with some new strats, with some new nades, like with some new ideas. And he had some really, like I learned a lot from him, and he
Hmm.
had some great ideas that he was the kind of coach that was not like watching, let's say he watches 10 demos and then he just copies everything from this team. He wanted to create stuff himself, and that way I felt like we were always kind of one step ahead from the others, from the opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And mithR was he was also helping a lot with the in-game stuff, but he was also a bit more focused on the outside of the game stuff. Like, let's say he was helping us mentally to get ready for the games, between games, after games, what we need to do, how we need to do things. So I feel like this is the biggest difference between them. mithR was a bit more focused on the our mental state and
Sure.
also on some in-game things, and kuben was mostly focused on the in-game stuff.
Okay, and which one, from the perspective of an in-game leader, being the IGL that you are, which one do you actually find more helpful? What does the perfect coaching duo look like to you? We're gonna put the question like that so we don't throw anyone under the bus. So explain to me what the perfect coach looks like in your head, and then you can add that is saw. But just start it off with the initial conversation. So explain to me what a perfect coach IGL dynamic should look like from your perspective.
Well, I think it's really important that the coach and IGL have like a good connection. Obviously, sometimes will be like some disagreement, but it's important that and then at the end of the day we just find a common language. And I mean, it's hard to say about the perfect coach because I feel like when I joined Apeks, I was really inexperienced and I needed someone to teach me about the mental part of the game,
Yeah.
because before that I haven't had like a mental coach or anyone to tell me how to react or how to be during games and stuff like that. So at that time, I would say that I would really want someone to help me mentally. But now, after being in tier one for 1 year and a half, let's say, I feel like I've grown a lot mentally. So now I would say that right now for me, it's more important to have someone to help me in game. But I would say that Sto is kind of mix of both. So he's
Okay.
helping me still mentally, and also he's helping me a lot in game. So I like him a lot, and I'm happy to work with him.
Okay, that actually is quite a good transition into your time on Heroic now, because you've been there since the start of the year. Now, first of all, talk to me a little bit about the ending period or the last couple of weeks and months on Apex, because it started looking quite chaotic with some of the roster changes, right? Especially after JL left after the major, it just felt like things were going downhill a little bit. Even though you did bring in Cacanito, and he was actually not doing a bad job, right? You're a countryman, he was playing good Counter Strike, but for the team, it just didn't feel like things were clicking. Was it like that from your perspective, and was it just a natural continuation? You just saying, you know what, I feel like maybe things are just not gonna work out, and I'm gonna look for something else.
Well, I think you're right about the start. It didn't feel comfortable because I think JL was super important for our team, obviously, in Apex. And Cacanito is also an amazing player, but I would say that they're a bit of a different players.
Yeah.
And Cacanito had to take most of JL's roles, which previously he didn't play most of them. So he was playing decent, but it was not his level from before. So he was not playing as he did before, and also the team needed some time to adapt. And also another thing is that this roster change happened right after the Paris major, and in the Paris major we had, you know what happened. So our expectations became like really big. We thought we are at that time we were like top 7 in the world, and suddenly we started playing online again. We started losing to some teams that in our mind we shouldn't lose, and then more pressure comes, more doubts come, and it was a bit rough in the first month. But towards the end of my Apex career, I would say that we things changed a little bit. We started playing better. There was a better connection between the players, and we had some decent results. My last two events with Apex were in like Dallas and Elisa in Finland, and both of them we made the final. Sadly, we lost both of them, but it was much better performances by us than start of the season, let's say. So at least I ended my Apex career in a better way than start of the season.
Okay, so the story there was more like you get approached by Heroic and you're like, okay, I want to participate in that project more than I don't believe in the future of Apex.
It was not like I didn't believe in Apex, because when I left Apex, we were still like top 15, top 20
Yeah.
team, which was not tier 1, but with the team we had, I think it was really good. We were like tier 1.5, playing
Mm-hmm.
all the tier 1 events, like IM Sydney, Cologne, I don't know what else, but we played a lot of good events. But I felt like Heroic was like one step bigger than Apeks,
Sure.
and I felt like offers like that don't come that often. And when I heard about the lineup, I think it was kind of obvious for me to accept the offer the same way it was 1 year ago when I joined Apeks.
Okay, before we get into heroic, by the way, there's a question I want to ask you, and about some of the guys that you played with on Apex. Because for
Yeah,
Cacanito, it felt like it was a because I personally, being someone from the Balkan region, was really excited when I saw him get picked up because I know that this guy individually is cracked, right? It's for a lot of people the comparison I give is like he is like Collins from Serbia, right? They're pretty
yeah.
similar when you think about it. So he's that hyper aggressive guy that's going to go in zero respect to the opponents, and he's got a really high ceiling. So, what do you think about him as a player now that you've been with him on an international team as well, and you've seen how he behaves? Because in my eyes, he hasn't really had a lot of success so far in 2024. But in my eyes, this guy still has some decent potential to actually play a good level of Counter Strike.
Yeah, I think he's really skilled player. Like he's really smart also. And when we were together in Bluejays, he was helping a lot with some like he was basically the second caller because of his positions. So on T side, he was helping me a lot, I would say. I haven't watched him a lot recently in BC game, to be honest. But I think the main reason why maybe his stats dropped after Bluejays, let's say, was that at least in Apeks he had different roles
Mm-hmm.
and he couldn't find his game at the start, in my opinion at least. So basically in Bluejays he had all the best roles on City side. On this side he was the main like map control. He was taking map control, and when he came to Apeks he suddenly became on City side he became like mm, semi anchor, I would say, or not
Sure.
playing like the main
Yeah,
roles.
yeah. Good
And
spots
on
on
this
some
side,
maps and anchor on some
yes,
others. Yeah.
yes, and on this side he became on some maps he had the old positions, like the good ones, and on half of the other, like on the other three maps, he had like he became lurker basically. And I feel like this kind of position don't fit him that well. I
Okay.
mean, at the time, I believe that he might that he will get used to it after some time, but obviously it's just better when someone plays in his natural roles. And I think that's the biggest thing with him. If you give him the roles and the space he needs, and if he does what he needs, what he wants, basically, he'll be really good.
The main issue there that I see was that you actually had two jkaems on the team, but one of them being
Yes.
less experienced than from Northern
Yeah.
Macedonia. But it's still, you can't make jkaem sacrifice his roles, can you? The longevity on this guy is insane, and he's probably the last person that I want to talk about from the Apeks days. Is it that crazy playing with jkaem as it is watching jkaem and realizing that this guy has been playing the game for that long and he's still shooting like an 18-year-old?
I mean, I was really impressed by him. Like he was individually really good, and he was uh, I don't know how to describe him, but he was a soldier. If you tell him just go, he will
Okay.
go, and he will do what he needs to do for the team. And on top of that, he's also like really good teammate, and he's really funny guy, and I think it's like he's the perfect guy to have in the team. I'm really glad that I had the chance to play with him.
Okay, that's really good to hear because I have a really good opinion of him as well, and I think obviously that's why I'm asking you those questions because it felt like when you left Apex, everything was still in good spirits, right? Everything was there was a lot of mutual respect involved in the team, and
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I really like about that entire tenure of yours on Apex because it felt like the energy was great. Obviously, Stiko's one that we haven't mentioned, but I've always enjoyed the fact that I mean, for me, it was like Sasanito and jkaem are the same person, and then you and Stiko look really similar because you're both sacrificing everything for the team, right? And you're both giving a lot of ideas. So, and Knock is just the clue somewhere in there in the middle. So it felt like it was a really exciting team. But let's move on to the heroic times now. You did mention that it was an easy decision for you to make once you realized what the lineup was going to be. Does that mean that you were the final piece in that puzzle? That everything else was decided, all four players and the coach, or you had some say in some of the decisions?
No, I was not the last one. Basically, when I was contacted first, all I knew was that So will be the new coach. sjuush will be staying, and 99% that NertZ will be joining. So the core would be me, NertZ, and sjuush, and
Mm-hmm.
So would be the coach. And two players were not known yet, but I had some talks with So and also with sjuush and NertZ, had like four of us.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I still didn't know the whole team, like I felt like it was a good core. All of them were like tier one players and coach, and ENST and Heroic before that were like top 5 teams. So for me, it was like easy decision to say yes to this offer.
What you think of Saw initially, right? Because for a lot of guys, and I think still up to nowadays, because the main conversations are coaches like Blade, for example, when everyone's talking about how sick he is, and he is, I mean, understandably so, but the majority of the conversations fall onto other coaches, I feel like, and I think So is a little bit flying under the radar for actually how good he is at his job. So how'd you find working with him?
I think it's I really enjoy working with him. I think like I didn't have the chance to work with too many coaches, but for me he's the best one I've worked with so far. And what I like about him is that he's really calm. He's always taking things in like in a normal way, like he's trying to fix everything in a proper way. And yeah, he's helping a lot with the in-game stuff. Like sometimes he comes to tier and he has like a lot of new things, which makes my job easier. Because if it's only me bringing stuff, then it's like really hard for me. So he's helping with that, and at the same time, he's really calm. He's really helping me with some mental things, and yeah, like I'm just happy to work with him.
That's the one thing that I want to talk a little bit about as well, is the just the coaching and prep dynamic between you, So, and Feed, right? Who's the assistant coach? Because on a lot of teams, there's different ways that people do it. As we already said, there are some coaches that are more tactical. There's some coaches that are focusing more on the mental side. You're saying that's always a little bit more balanced. There's teams in which, for example, the IGL is the one doing all the pistols and antis for anti-ecos and stuff like that. So, but without giving away too much, obviously, because we don't want to just open the heroic strat book in front of everyone. But what is the dynamic like between the three of you? How are you distributing all the things that have to be done?
Well, I would say that it's all of us are doing something, like trying to help each other in some way. So usually when let's say when we talk about map veto, all of us are involved, and then when it comes to preparation for the maps, uh, I cannot go too much into details, but everyone is doing something. One guy is
Okay.
doing pistols, for example. The other one is doing anti-forces. The third guy is doing something else, looking for some tells from the opponents. And there's so many things to do. But I think we have a good way of working, and everything is split up between us. And we just try to keep it consistent. If someone is, let's say, doing the pistols, he will do the pistols always. So we don't change something.
And you sound like a guy that's quite open to actually listening to other people and their views of the game. Is it like that, or you have a really set approach of how you want to envision the game, how you want to play the game, what your team has to be playing like?
Well, as you said, I like to listen to others, and I'm always open for discussion. But I feel like I have my own vision of the game, and I'm always open to discuss with someone, and then we find a common language on like what is right and what is not right. It
Hmm.
can be my teammate, it can be my coach, but yeah, I'm open for discussion, and the most important thing for me is to always find something that we both agree on. And it doesn't matter if I was right or he was right. It's just important what is the right for the team, not who is right, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get you. I get you. It's teams first at all times. And another thing which we already briefly mentioned, but I want to ask you in a more specific way now, because everyone is saying that this is the future of in-game leading. IGLs that are getting proactive spots on CT, that are entering on T side, creating space, running in first, calling around the space that they create for themselves, and then you go in and you're doing the complete opposite. So what do you think? What would you say about people stating that this is the future of in-game leading? Because you seem to believe that your system still is able to work against a lot of the things that others are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to define it because uh, I feel like every team is a bit different when it comes to their structure. Like
Okay.
in our team, let's say on city side, I have more like anchor roles.
Mm-hmm.
So on the city side, I'm not the one controlling everything.
Yeah.
People are helping a lot. So obviously, I think the most important thing is what kind of players you have in the team. Like for example, if you have two strong anchors and then you have IGL, then the IGL can take a better position because you have two strong anchors. I mean, it's obvious. But for example, in our team, we have NertZ and TeSeS who are really aggressive and proactive players.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of lacking, like we need one more anchor, which is me in most of the maps. So
Okay.
that's why I think it all depends on what kind of players you have in the team. If you have way too many anchors, like two anchors, there's space for the IGL to do something else. But I feel like it's just important that, for me at least, that the IGL is ready to sacrifice for the team. Like if something happens someday and I need to become to have more important roles or like more star roles in the team, I'm ready to do it. And that's the most important thing, that I would just do what's needed for the team.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And on that note, we're gonna keep it talking now about the overall picture on heroic a little bit more. So the initial lineup actually didn't have degster in; it had nicoodoz, and that was an interesting one. And I think that was probably a first time for you playing with an Oprah like that, well, being an IGL to an Oprah like that, that is really rifle heavy. And at times just feels like he's a natural rifle. I mean, you're coming out after playing with Nog, who's the guy that's gonna get the AVP. The first time he sees the chance, he's gonna go for the glass cannon. He's gonna pull off an insane clutch with it or whatever. So, what was the dynamic like with nicoodoz on the team, and why didn't you? Why do you feel like things didn't work out?
Well, even before we got him into heroic, we knew that he is the kind of, like, he's OPER, but he likes to play rifle a lot.
Yeah.
But at that time, we were like, that's a really good thing, because at that time CS2 was still a new game and the rifling was OP, like the swinging and all of those things. And there was so many OPERs who were like hybrid, kind of like nicoodoz. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have Zaiwu, Monesi, for example, and we were like, it should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then at some point, we felt like it became way too much of rifling, because we needed someone who can play the op. Like it's fine that he plays the rifle sometimes, but we felt like it's too much, and that was the biggest problem in the team for us. But besides that, I think nicoodoz is a really skilled player, really smart. Like he brought a lot of stuff to the team, and he's a really nice teammate. So I can only say good things about him. And I feel like it's just even a bit unlucky that uh, that like this happened, that he had to be replaced.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I get you. Because that's the one thing I've never I haven't really heard a lot of people say anything bad about nicoodoz being a teammate. So that's the impression that I've been left with, is that sometimes things just don't click, right? And the team needs
Yeah.
something different, and he's just not the guy to provide that. Doesn't necessarily mean that he was doing anything bad in his own way. But then you decide to move into degster, and that was a. By the way, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm one of those crazy people out there that are proclamating and fighting and are gonna die on the stone that degster can still be one of the best operas in the world. But at the time when you picked him up, and probably still, there's a lot of people that doubt the fact that he's going to be able to come back into it. So how did you make the decision to actually pick degster, considering that at the time you picked him up, he actually hadn't played any officials in around 1 year time, right? So it's always, it kind of has to feel like a massive risk, even if you believe that he still has the skill.
Yeah, obviously it's a big risk when he hasn't played the game for a long time, and that was the only thing that made us doubt it a little bit at the time. But if you look at all the other things, like about him, I think he was the perfect fit for the team, because he's aggressive, he's vocal, he's hyping up the team. Like he has so many good qualities. So for us, we had like, the only doubt was the fact that he hasn't played the game for 1 year. But other than that, he had so many good things about him. So for us, it was not that hard to make this decision. And also at that time, there were not too many available offers to pick.
Mm-hmm.
So we felt like he's by far the best one that we can get. And yeah, I think he's becoming a lot better recently, because at the start he needed some time to get used to playing again. First of all, CS, and then in general, he hasn't played for 1 year. But I feel like he's improving a lot, and I think it's just a matter of time until he becomes the old degster that everyone knows. And
Also,
also,
yeah.
I can also say about him that he's the guy that, like, whenever you just see him in the program, he's just playing deathmatch, and to me it's crazy. Like he's playing so much, and you can see that he really wants it, and that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, also we have to add one thing. The fact that when he joined the team, there was a couple months where he had a lot of visa issues, right? And a lot of problems with documents, which meant that ultimately you guys had to play with stand-ins a lot of the times. He couldn't participate in some of the events. Do you feel like just now, after all of that has been resolved, so the last, let's say, 2 months since the start of EPL pretty much, is when actually the year started for you guys? Because you're saying, at the start of the lineup, you didn't really know who you were going to be stuck with on a team. You play with nicoodoz, but then things don't work out, so you make a change. Then you bring in degster, who hadn't played in 1 year. Then he's got visa issues and can't play a lot of events. So, do you feel like the season pretty much, because that's the feeling I have for heroic, I kind of feel like the year just started for you guys like 2 months ago? Was it in a similar way? The vibe was it similar in the team as well?
Yes, definitely. Like I would say that it started around September for us because that's when Dexter fixed all of the issues. And in September, like if you look at it this way, like when he started playing with us consistently, we had EPL, we had
I
IM
am
Rio, we had
Rio,
like
Masters,
all of this
Elisa. Yeah.
event, all of these events, we played much better than before, and we made semifinals, finals. We didn't win anything sadly, but you can see the improvements, in my opinion, at least. And yeah, before that, it was really annoying for us because if everything went according to plan, he would be with us since the first event of the season. But then something happened in the process with the visa, so we had to play Blast with Sto. Then for Cologne, we had Woro 2K for one game. Then Dexter joined, and yeah, it's really annoying because we didn't know what's gonna happen because we were just getting told that maybe tomorrow he will come, but maybe he won't come, and it's like
Sure.
we don't know anything about what will happen tomorrow. And at the same time, like during all of this time when we played with Sto and with Voro, it was around 2 weeks. We were away from home because it was Blast and then it was Cologne. For around 2 weeks, we didn't practice at all with Dexter. So when he came back with to Cologne, we played with him, but before that we haven't played with him for 2 weeks. So all of the things we practiced are kind of not forgotten, but it's much harder to play when we haven't played for 2 weeks basically with him.
Yeah, but as you said, now it feels like things are starting to click in, right? EPL, you made it out of groups, then you're going to Rio, you make semifinals and you lose to Navi, which is probably the best team in the world right now, and you still took a map off of them, so that's a good result. I wanted to hear your opinion a little bit more on, let's say, Elisa Masters Espoo and the Thunderpick World Championship, because both those events kind of felt like they were probably yours for the taking. Did you feel that extra tad bit of pressure, and do you feel like this is what cost you against both Ensa and the Mongos?
I I don't think we felt a lot of pressure. I think it was just that we didn't perform as we do like in the finals, in both of the finals. We were just not there most important individually. We were not there, and also both of the opponents, so Ants and Mongols, had like really good momentum against us, and they had the crowd advantage. So it was few things like this that made a difference in my opinion. But I don't think it was because of the pressure, because I feel like we have players who are really experienced and played in much bigger arenas, and Elisa and Thunderpick weren't like super big arenas where you could feel the pressure or something like that. So yeah, that's how it is, I think.
That is how it is, but now it feels like you finally have the right pieces, right? It feels like Dexter's coming back to life a little bit. We mentioned briefly NertZ, TeSeS, and sjuush, but I think that's a conversation that has been, I guess, has been maybe not overlooked because there is some people talking about it still. But does it feel good having two of the best role players in the game and one of the best rifles in the game as well? Because I think a lot of people tend to forget now because of the couple lackluster months that heroic has gone through and you guys have had to go through, that NertZ is actually probably still one of the best rifles. So do you feel like individually for them the form is just going to keep on going up as the team is playing better? Do you feel like we can get the best not only of degster but of guys like NertZ, TeSeS, and sjuush as well?
Yeah, I think every one of them is improving a lot when, like, in this period when we are actually playing with with the whole lineup for some time already, and I'm really happy to have them in the team because, as you said, in my eyes, NertZ is one of the best riflers, and TeSeS and sjuush are the kind of players that will do everything that's needed for the team. They would
Hmm.
sacrifice, they would do anything. They would go first, they would die, they would throw nades if needed. They would do what you tell them basically. So, and not only them, but I feel like everyone in the team is ready to sacrifice for each other, and I think that's a really good thing that not many teams have.
Hmm.
Because in some other teams, some players are like, okay, if we drop AK, it needs to be this guy. But in
Okay.
our team, I feel like anyone can take the AK if we think that he needs it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the good things about our team, that anyone can basically show up and anyone can do what they want basically.
Okay, and to round it out, lastly, the RMR starts for you guys quite soon. I mean, we're recording this on the 16th of November, and your group starts in 5 days on the 21st. Your opening game is against Parivision, who just picked up Dastan from VP as a coach. So, talk to me a little bit about your opinion on Parivision as a team, what the prep is going to be looking like, and I assume you've had the time to actually look at the list of teams that is going to be on Group B. So. I'm gonna ask you a really specific thing in terms of that after you give me your Paravision opinion. Which team out of the underdogs, we're not counting guys like G2, Spirit, Eternal, Fire, yourselves, maybe even Astralis, I guess. I don't know what the situation is there now that Device is not going to be playing, but which one of the tier 2 guys in the lower echelon teams do you think has the biggest potential of putting on an upset?
Well, first about Parivision, to be honest, I haven't had the chance to watch them too much, but looking at the players, I think they have really good, like, good individuals and also like a good IGL, I would say. So yeah, it's hard to say what will happen. It's best of one, and anything can happen. I think the most important thing is to not to not disrespect them or like to just play the game as we do against anyone. Because if you look on paper, we should win it, but it's never like that, especially in CS2 and when it comes to MR12. And about the underdogs, let me check the group quickly because I don't remember all the teams.
Okay, that's an interesting one for me. I'm not gonna ask you any other specifics about it because obviously you're part of the group, so it's a bit more difficult to discuss it. But I honestly think this year's RMRs are actually, or this major's RMRs have massive potential for upsets.
Yeah, I think in our group, I would say two teams actually.
Okay.
I would say that 3D Max is really underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've been doing good for some time already, and they attended a lot of good events. Like maybe they were not that successful in these events, but I still think they have like a good team that can do a lot of damage. And the second one is Passion UA.
Okay.
I think it's their first like big event,
Yeah.
but I've watched them a few times, and it seems like they have a really good structure. They have some good individuals, like they have good Opera, they have good riflers. So the only thing is, I don't know how they will react to the pressure if they feel it at all. But other than that, I think they have really good team that can qualify for the major.
Okay, we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining me. Lastly, anything you want to say to people that are gonna be supporting yourself, Heroic at the RMR? What can we expect out of you guys? Maybe making a major, maybe making quarterfinals, maybe semifinals, maybe winning. I don't know.
Well, first of all, thanks to everyone who watched this video. I hope you liked it, and I hope you'll be cheering for Heroic in the RMR and also the major.
Thank you very much, ladies and gents. That was kyxsan. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. I definitely did, and had a lot of fun. Make sure, of course, you go and follow him on Twitter in case you already haven't. Look at me saying that as if you don't have more followers than I do, by the way. I'm gonna be the one sending people your way. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, and I'll see you really, really soon once again. Bye-bye.